Hey my loves, and welcome back. So for my loyal followers, I'm happy you're here, and for my new followers, welcome. So we usually start with checking in, which is basically asking yourself how you're doing, how you're feeling today, and reflecting on those thoughts. So let's get into it. We are going to be talking about teenage pregnancy and my experience. Let's go. So, I was pregnant when I was 19. And I guess you could kind of call it teenage pregnancy. I don't know, I think, the stereotype is that, teenage pregnancy is maybe starts from the age of 14, 15 years old. But hey ho. So for me, being 19, I gave birth when I was 20. And at that time, I was still, at college and still kind of, studying at the time when I found out I was pregnant. And I think at that age, the most thing that you're worried about is, is telling your family, telling your mum or your parents or whoever's in your life at that time, right? And for me, I had to tell my mum. And funny enough, on my way to her house, I was thinking, oh my God, how am I going to tell her? How's she going to feel? All these kind of things are running through your head, right? But I get there and I told her, and obviously she wasn't happy. She wasn't happy that I was pregnant at this specific time while I'm studying. And at that point now, focusing on my career and stuff like that. But eventually she became supportive and was happy for me and just said to me, if you are gonna, continue the pregnancy, ensure that you continue to study and focus on your goals and career. And the one thing I did love is that she didn't pressure me to, marry the person I had a child with, or, because she's just like, you don't feel like, you have to marry that person. Just focus on the baby, giving birth safely, and focusing on school, which is what I did. So during that time, I think that some people experience feeling ashamed and, thinking what have they done with their life. And for me, I did feel like that to a certain degree, but it wasn't every day, it wasn't all the time. After I kind of thought about, I'm in this situation, I didn't want to go through having an abortion. So I was going to go through with this, right? And then for me, the best thing for me was just to kind of think about how am I going to move forward and how am I going to progress and how am I going to look after myself and this child that I'm, carrying. And I continued with college. I continued with my studies. I went off to uni and finished that while having my baby. So in terms of feeling, if you're in the situation and you are pregnant at a young age, or just pregnant in general, don't feel like you're stuck. Don't feel like your life is going to change completely. I'm not going to lie about that. Your life will change. It won't be more focusing on you anymore like before. It will be you. It's not even going to be you as much, but try to kind of include yourself in that. But 90% of the time, it is, the baby that you're focusing on and how you guys can have a better life. But if you are in that situation, again, I will always say in my videos, seek medical help, seek medical advice, speak to a counselor, kind of figure out your options. What do you want to do? Do you want to carry the baby and give up for adoption? Or do you want to, maybe have an abortion? Or do you want to keep it? And, what help do you think you would need? Don't feel ashamed in any of your decisions, because at the end of the day, you're the one that's in that situation. You're the one that's going to have to go through it, right? And there's people around you that are going to say, oh my God, you did this or you did that. They might make you feel bad about the situation, but you just have to remember that it's you in that situation by yourself most of the time. And it's you that it's going to affect, right? So you decide on how you want your life to progress. And then if you do choose to go down the route of not having the baby or having an abortion, obviously, you try and preventive measures for next time so it doesn't happen again. So you don't have to, go through that traumatic experience. Because in terms of abortion, there's different methods, there's different processes, and it all depends if you kind of find out earlier, then, maybe you can have the pill. And if you don't find out earlier, sometimes it's surgical procedures, which can be very traumatic. It can take a lot out of you. So it's good to just put preventive measures in place. Not saying that they're all 100%, because For one of my pregnancies, I got pregnant on the copper coil. So it doesn't mean like, you know, if you have contraception, you're completely covered. Get everything, most of the contraception says 99%, right? So nobody wants to take liability. But, you know, put things in kind of put things in place to prevent it from happening again, so you don't have to go through that mental kind of situation again, because it is mental. I mean, sometimes you feel like, oh, well, should I do this? And if sometimes people that do have an abortion, they feel guilty, and some that don't feel guilty. So it's all about your mindset in that precise moment. And so you have to make sure you have a clear mindset before you make any decision, before you rush into any decisions about, you know, wanting to keep the baby, not wanting to keep the baby, or, you know, give up for adoption, or whatever the option is at that precise moment. But in terms of pregnancies, I think for me, when I got past that stage of feeling like, okay, you know, in the beginning I was like, yeah, it's fine, and I was thinking, oh god, like, what have I done? Then I kind of reset and then came back to, okay, this is where I am, this is what I want to do moving forward. I would say, looking back, I do not have any regrets. I am so happy of my, you know, decision that I made. I wouldn't, like, again, every situation is different, every, you know, pregnancy is different. So the only thing I can say in terms of tips and advice that I always try and give at the end of my videos is to say, make sure you're in a positive mindset so that you're able to make a concise decision on what you want to do moving forward. Feel like if you make a decision, you're a bad person if you choose to go this way or that way. And just be sure in your decision, because once, if you choose to keep the baby, there isn't really, you know, going back. You know, you have to follow the process and go through the motions, and it can affect you emotionally because you are potentially bringing another human being into the world, you know, bringing a baby into the world that's going to call you mum or dad, whatever the case is. You know, you're bringing in a whole person that looks up to you as a role model. So it does take a lot of thinking, you know, processing the thoughts that you're having and speaking to someone. Don't, you know, there's situations that people get pregnant, teenage pregnancies, and they keep it to themselves and they give birth by themselves because they don't want no one to find out. Please do not do that, because it's not good for you or the baby. And I know it's difficult because some people have different situations and they can't do certain things, but I would plead you to seek medical help. Speak to a friend that you trust or a family member. And don't ever feel ashamed of the situation that you're in. Right? Because it can happen to anyone, and it's happened to everyone, and you will not be the first, right? And you definitely won't be the last. You know, seek certain groups out there that can help with certain situations like this to kind of bring you back to normality. So I hope this helps someone out there that's maybe pregnant at a young age, scared to speak to their parent about it. Just speak to your family members or speak to someone. You know, what's the worst that's going to happen? Well, sorry, there might be things that could happen out of it in terms of consequences, but it's always better to speak out than go through that situation by yourself. Then, you know, feel like I'm just going to give birth to a child and, you know, leave it, or I'm just going to give birth to a child and, you know, give it up without telling anyone. Because you never know, some people will surprise you. You might get that support from family members, you might not. But it's always better to speak to someone. If you don't want to speak to family members or friends, again, speak to your... I know if you're a certain age, they might have to obviously contact your parents because you're underage and stuff like that. But please seek medical help. I can't stress that enough. So I hope this has helped somebody that is probably in that situation. You will go through the motions of being happy about it and not feeling happy about it, especially depending on where you are in your life, especially depending on what you wanted for your life to, you know, wanted your life to become in terms of like career-wise or job-wise. Don't feel like having a baby stops your life completely. I feel like it pauses your life and maybe slows it down, but it doesn't stop it completely, yeah? You're still able to do what you want to do. If you want to get that job, you can get that job. If you want to, you know, apply for the university or college, whatever the case is, do that. Don't feel like this pregnancy is going to be a burden. It's going to be hard. I kid you not, right? I kid you not, it will be hard. But it will not stop your life completely. It will just put like a little pause on it, and it will slow it down a little bit, you know, because you're not going to have as much time as you had before, you know, out and about, socializing, you know, doing what you want to do without thinking, oh my God, I have the baby to look after, or I can't go here because I need childcare. And, you know, childcare is expensive nowadays. So you're not going to be able to, you know, go out as you was before, like just thinking about myself. I'm just thinking about myself. I want to go here. I want to travel. You won't have that ability anymore. You know, now it's, you know, who's going to look after my child if I do want to go out or do want to travel, right? So again, I say this and I share my story to just let you guys know that you're not alone, and just try and take the positiveness out of it. Again, write a journal, write notes down so that you can actually see your thoughts on paper, because it's always better seeing it or saying it out. I would always recommend, you know, speaking to a counselor or therapist, because you have that time to just speak about you and only you in that 45 to an hour's time, you know, hour duration, without any distractions, without judgment, without any, you know, direct advice. It's just for you to have that time just to speak your own truth and your thoughts without anyone else, you know, interrupting or getting involved or putting pressure on you. So again, I hope this helps. We are always looking for women to share their story on topics that they feel that they are comfortable with sharing, and because I really feel like you never know your story and how your story can affect others, how it can influence others, and how it can help them to, you know, give them tips and advice, because there is no manual. There's probably manuals on how to be a good parent and, you know, how to live your life and you live your best life, so to speak. But that's just obviously, you know, it's from a book that someone has written from probably their own experience. But I would also say, like, seeing someone talk about it and seeing the emotion and seeing how they went around the situation and made it better is always 10 times better, because you can connect with that person. So that's why, you know, if you do feel like, you know, you want to share your story, again, get in touch with us. And, you know, we can go through the stages, send us, you know, an email with a little bit of description, what you want to talk about. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be the topics that you see on the channel right now. It could be something else. And again, it's not limited to something negative. It could be positive. It could just be advice on financial, how to, you know, get a side hustle, because everything's expensive right now. So everybody needs a couple side hustles at this point, especially going into 2025. We need a couple side hustles, okay? It could be anything, housing. You know, I have knowledge on certain topics. If you want to, you know, for me to talk about something or for me to even research certain things, let me know in the description below. I'll be happy to do that. I would, you know, if you want to know about housing, especially, and how I moved from my property to another property within the, you know, the borough, the council borough, let me know. I can give advice on, you know, how you can hopefully move band numbers depending on where you are in the world, and, you know, in your city, and also how you can, you know, just be a better person within yourself. No one is perfect. And sometimes as women, we expect to be perfect. We expect to have everything written down in our plans. Sometimes our plans don't work out. And if your plans don't work out, you just have to move on, you know, and create steps on how you can achieve it. If you still want to continue with that plan, or think about a different plan that's more viable and at least more, you know, sustainable, that you can follow, right? Again, do not feel like you're alone. Share your feelings, share your concerns in the comments below, and we can talk about it. And I hope that helps someone out there that maybe has gone through pregnancy before, you know, maybe has gone through an abortion before, maybe had to keep the child, maybe, you know, for any other reason, substance misuse, you know, they had to give it up for adoption, or whatever the case is. You know, we're here to listen and create an environment that you can feel safe to share your story, and to give advice and tips to others that it could possibly help them, you know, to make better decisions for themselves. So I'll leave you with that, and I hope you kind of use information to improve your mindset, because that's the main thing. That's the fundamental thing, is your mindset. Mwah.